Hello friends, Amy R here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with another STAMPtember exclusive. This is the AlteNew Beautiful Lily stamp set with all the exclusives. These are limited edition, one and done. When they're sold out, they're gone for good. I will have links to the stamp and the stamp and die set in the description box below the video. So before I get to the actual creating with the set, I wanted to do my background. So I have some Strathmore watercolor paper here, and one of my go-to favorites, the spring BOHO stencil from Simon Says Stamp. Is it the spring BOHO or no, this is the BOHO circle. There's several versions. I've used them all in various ways and love. So I have the BOHO circle. I lightly blended some salvaged patina distress oxide ink. And then I'm going to add some water. We're going to add some spray. Just have some fun with it, since oxide ink is reactive with water. Not to mention, you get more fun with oxide inks when you add the water, because, they oxidize and do all their fun things. So I'm just going back and forth, splattering a bit of water, picking it up with a bit of paper towel, drying it. Now I'm going to add some salvaged patina distress oxide spray. This is kind of dipping my toes back into the mixed media sort of thing, just lightly. I was going to use crackle paste and all the things, but decided to just tone her back a little bit. So I added the spray, dried that a little bit, added a lot more water, splatters and whatnot, so get things kind of moving around, just to create this fun, fairly soft background. I wanted some color and a little bit of pattern, but nothing too crazy, because I want the flowers, of course, to stand out. So once I was kind of happy with how this was looking, I decided to add some white splatter as well, because of course. So I have this Avery L white ink spray. I've used this in a lot of videos in the past. It's just nice. I don't use it as a spray. I just use it for splatter. So I shook it up really well and then splattered that in the background. And then I'm going to set this aside and let that dry. So while that's drying, I am going to heat emboss this beautiful lily image onto another piece of this Strathmore watercolor paper. And for today's video, I specifically chose this Strathmore watercolor paper because I want to use my Karin Brushmarker Pros. And for whatever reason, this specific watercolor paper works the best with these markers. I don't know what it is. I haven't been able to get them to work on other papers the way I like. This one it's like they just go together like salt and pepper. They just work. So I put the watercolor paper in my MISTI. I used my anti-static powder tool, and then I inked up the stamp with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and inked it up and stamped it a couple times. And then I'm going to coat this with clear embossing powder. You can always skip this step, but I pretty much almost can't watercolor without having the image heat embossed. It's like a security blanket. Those little raised edges keep things a little more contained, so I'm not having to worry so much or make as much of a mess, because most of the time I just can't be bothered and I don't have the patience. Although I'm really hoping some of the other designers do some no line coloring with this set, because I was looking at that and I was like, oh, these would look beautiful done with a no line coloring style. But again, I don't have the patience. Sometimes I do, but not today. So after I was done melting everything, got my Karin Brushmarker Pros and a paintbrush. And I also grabbed my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen, and I just squeezed that out onto a palette. You can sort of paint directly with the Aqua Shimmer pen, but I don't like doing that because I don't want that pen absorbing the color, because it will. And then it's no longer clear. So I prefer, squeezing out like I show on the palette. And then that way I can pick it up with my brush. I have a little more control with it too. So I'm doing very simple coloring. I'm just scribbling. I just chose two colors for the lilies, a darker red sort of a color and a lighter shade like a pink. And I scribble the darker color, and then I blend it a little bit with the lighter color. And then I take my water brush that I've dipped in water, and I dip it into the Aqua Shimmer little puddle I've created and pull it out. That's it. And I just go petal by petal. And since everything's heat embossed, I don't have to worry about one area starting to bleed into the other, and the color's traveling. So that's the method to the madness. So I just went along and kept doing that with each one of these petals until the lilies were complete. And again, they're like all the color combos. Like I was really happy when I saw this set because one, y'all know, if you guys watch my videos, hello large florals, always gonna get me. But these are just, lilies are beautiful and there's so many colors. So many colors. Love. I have black lilies in my backyard and they bloomed this year. And I don't even think I had a chance to take pictures of them, but like they're marketed as black. They're not. They're like such a deep maroon. They look black and I should have done these in that. But anyway. After I was done painting all of the petals, I did the greenery and I did the same thing. I chose a darker green and a lighter green, blended them together with the aqua shimmer and my paintbrush. And then I just used a like rusty brown sort of a color. I will have the specific colors because I did take a picture of them. I'll have them on my blog. But yeah, it's not like this is like a Copic blend or anything like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I colored in all of the stamens. I cut all of that out. My background is now dry. So I'm going to trim this down to smaller than my A2 card front. So I think I trimmed this down to about 3 3/4 by 5 inches, something like that. And then I also used the handwritten hello wafer die. This was part of the STAMPtember release on the 1st. And I die cut the word from Simon's gold cardstock and the outline from black. And then I chose a sentiment from the beautiful lily set. And I'm going to heat emboss that onto just a piece of black cardstock here. So I got that lined up in my MISTI. I used my anti-static powder tool. And then I'll ink up the little sentiment with some clear embossing ink. And then once that's stamped, I'm going to coat that with Simon's gold detail embossing powder. Get that coated, melt that with my heat tool, as always, especially with metallic embossing powders. Very satisfying when you melt them. I've said this before in videos. It'll never get old, and it's true. I've been, card making and whatnot for, goodness, close to 20 years now. Something like that. And yeah, melting embossing powder never gets old. It's so much fun. So I have my sentiment. Since I had my MISTI out, put the card base inside my MISTI. This is a top folding A2 card. And I inked up that floral, that beautiful lily, with Simon's watermelon ink, but I didn't want to stamp that directly on the inside of the card because it's a pretty dark ink. So I stamped it once onto scrap paper, and then I just stamped the second impression on the inside of the card, which is very light, especially in the video. The video doesn't really pick it up very well, but it's there. It's just a nice light impression of the lilies. And then I stamped a couple more sentiments from that set onto the inside of the card with that Nocturne ink. And then after I did that, I can now adhere my die cut sentiments together. So I just adhered those together with some craft tacky glue. And then my background, I'm going to adhere to the card base again with craft tacky glue. So once that's adhered into place, the florals, I coated the back of them with thin foam squares. So it gives it a bit of dimension, but not too much bulk. So I put all those foam squares on there, and then I can pop this onto the card front. Once that's in place, I'm going to add more splatter. I know a lot of you were asking with a couple of my first videos for STAMPtember. They're like, what? No splatter? No bling? What the heck? I told you it was coming. So yes, gold splatter. I thought, it just ties in together nicely with the sentiment. So I'm using my Gansai Tombi Starry Color set and the gold color and my fan brush. And I heavily splattered the florals in the background with my gold splatter. So let that sit and dry. Once it was dry, I'm going to pop that handwritten hello die cut into place. I'd put a bit of the same thin foam squares on the back of it and pop that into place, pop my sentiment into place. And then I'm going to add a little bit more bling. I have this port wine embellishments from Trinity Stamps. I just showed these in that release and review video I did for Trinity's release just, what was that, a couple days ago? Something like that. And I was raving about these confetti pieces because the colors are just, they're so good for fall. So this one was perfect for the colors of these lilies. They just went together. So sprinkled those throughout the card. adhered them into place with craft tacky glue. And I actually paired this card with one of Simon's metallic Schoolhouse Red envelopes because that color just went really well too, and you know, the shimmer. And then of course I'm going to turn on my flashlight so you guys can actually see the sparkle. Love. So as always, and like I said in the beginning of the video, this Lily stamp set is limited edition. I'll have a link to that and the combo set in the description box below the video, as well as links to all the other supplies I used. So you can check that out below if you were interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping and commenting. I really appreciate you guys, and all the prayers going to the robot overlords from you guys. Love it. And it's very much appreciated. It does help. So I appreciate you all, and stay tuned. I'll be back very soon with another video. Bye.